In this episode of PulsePoint, we'll update you on these topics. 90% of schools said no thanks to Pride Week in schools this year. TVNZ's 7 Sharp discussed the issue of drag queens reading LGBT books to children in libraries. The Human Rights Commission has a new report out on conversion therapy. A teen's pro-life anthem climbs iTunes country charts. And finally, a new study suggests that having gratitude is linked to lower risk of death. Welcome to PulsePoint, the latest media stories and research related to family and society that you need to know about, issues from both New Zealand and overseas. It's time to cut through the spin and uncover the real issues. I'm Tambi Stowers. Despite heavy promotion in the legacy media and by Ministry of Education, the number of schools registering for Inside Out Schools Pride Week last month fell by almost 20% from last year. Now, last year, just 300 schools out of approximately 2,400 schools nationwide registered to observe the week of indoctrination of radical sexuality and gender identity. This year, it was even lower despite the education's subtle pressure. Just 250 schools, that is approximately 10% of all schools, registered. That means that 90% of schools focus on what we believe schools are supposed to focus on: education, not indoctrination. Inside Out blamed a hostile political climate of rising bigotry and disinformation for the significant drop. But why did the numbers really drop? It dropped because parents, grandparents, and community leaders have pushed back on the indoctrination of our children by radical activists who want to sexualize and confuse our children. There is also growing undeniable scientific evidence of the harms of this ideology. The science is finally winning, and not a moment too soon. Last Thursday, a segment on state broadcaster TVNZ's 7 Sharp discussed the issue of drag queens reading LGBT books to children in libraries, including an interview with one of the drag performers by host Hilary Barry. You can watch a full analysis of the 7 Sharp segment on our website under Meg Blog, but there were 2 specific parts of the program that we want to highlight to you today. Firstly, 7 Sharp doesn't want to acknowledge people who believe that you're born male or female and you can't choose your sex, or that men can't get pregnant, or that drag queens are entertainment for adults only. It's all the fault of one group.
Local councils in the Rotorua, Hastings and Upper Hutt have been forced to cancel rainbow storytime events for children because of a nasty backlash online from what's best described as Christian fundamentalists.
Christian fundamentalist, apparently. But if you look at the online commentary and public polling, there's a huge number of concerned parents, educators, and community leaders who don't agree with drag queens being role modeled before children or the indoctrination of sexuality and gender ideology. And secondly, there's an interesting book shown in this clip. Have a watch.
Destiny Church, who posted it to their followers. Then came the inevitable pile-on. There was vitriol and threats of violence. Brian Tamaki even suggested drag ought to be banned like gang patches from public spaces. All over a woman, dressed as a man, reading stories to children.
The book Granddad's Pride, which appeared in that clip, includes pride parades and leather fetish gear. Apparently, that is acceptable to our state broadcaster, especially for preschoolers. And ironically, 7 Sharp didn't get the drag queen to read out of this book or show that picture. 7 Sharp has also contacted Family First for comment just 5 hours before the broadcast. Even though the segment had clearly been pre-recorded, they had plenty of time to organize an interview. But it seems they weren't interested in an interview. So Family First sent this message back. We inform parents as to what's behind this. Why don't drag queens seem to be keen to read books at retirement homes? And encourage parents to communicate their concerns to the libraries hosting such events. However, it is up to parents. We just want to provide information to them so that they know the background and agenda. If they still want to take their children, that's their choice. We just discourage it. Now, fortunately, most Kiwi families now know exactly what's going on, and that's why these readings in libraries have very small groups attending. And that's a great thing, because parents are now aware. A new report has been released by Human Rights Commission entitled Conversion Practices Insights Report. Now, it's important to note that the 2.2 million taxpayer-funded complaints center set up by the Human Rights Commission for receiving complaints about conversion therapy has struggled to obtain any formal complaints about the use of conversion therapy in the past 2 years since the new law was passed. Now, once again, you will find a fuller analysis of this report on our website under MacBlock. In his analysis, Bob McCoskrie did a word search of this 102-page document. Now, you will see the word church appeared 49 times and Christian 46 times. Marriage appeared 31 times. Mosque 0, Muslim 1, Hindu, Buddhist, Mormon a couple of times each. But it's this admission by the Commission that should raise red flags for everyone. We received a small amount of feedback from those supportive of conversion practices as a way to uphold what they perceived to be the rights of the families and religious communities, to discipline or try change those in their care. We've not given space for those views in this report. The Human Rights Commission don't want to publicize any contra view. It appears that they only want human rights for those they agree with. The report has recommendations for the church saying, engage in research around inclusive and affirming interpretations of religious, spiritual teachings, commence a review process of reckoning with religious texts and teachings that do not affirm rainbow people, inclusive interpretations with an open mind. And then the introduction of Christianity in Aotearoa by European missionaries in the 19th century brought with it concepts of binary gender, monogamy, and heteronormativity, which influenced and altered attitudes towards sexual orientation and gender that largely remain today. Under community, they tell churches, consider having non-religious events. Also consider celebrating events that may uplift your rainbow community, like Pride Month. Consider placing a small pride flag or poster with a rainbow-affirming message in a common area. Review the layouts of your bathrooms. Conversion therapy is still legal in New Zealand. It's pushed by the Human Rights Commission, but only in the direction they want. And it's practiced in schools by groups such as Inside Out and Rainbow Youth. Pro-life anthem song, I Was Gonna Be, sung by 18-year-old Rachel Holtz, has reached the top 5 on iTunes chart for country music less than 3 weeks after its release. By 4th July, the song was within the top 10 country digital sales and just inside the top 20 digital sales. The writer of the song, Chris Wallen, the Nashville hitmaker behind country chart toppers for Superstars, stated, I started writing this song for myself. I didn't think anyone would have the courage to sing this. Soon after the songwriter and Rachel Holt met and Rachel heard the song, she offered to sing it. The song he wrote is from a point of view of a baby that never had a chance to be born. I Was Gonna Be is a powerful and relevant message for pro-abortion activists demanding the right to turn the womb into a tomb. Here's a bit of the song.
If my mama could have just seen my face, maybe she would have had me anyway. And there are those who speak for me, who fight for lives that they can't see. But there are some who only mourn this life of mine if I were born.
This is a solemn, softly sung pro-life protest in defense of the preborn. And finally, a new study shows that grateful people actually live longer. The study examined over 49,000 older women in the nursing profession, allegedly the first study of its kind. The study found that in comparison to women with lower gratitude levels, the most grateful tended to be younger, have a husband or a partner, and be involved in social and religious organizations. The average age of nurses who took part in the study was 79, and by the end of 2019, just over 4,000 of them had died. Looking at those who died, higher gratitude scores were associated with a 29% reduced risk for death overall. When controlling for a history of heart disease, stroke, cancer, and diabetes, gratitude was still associated with a 27% reduced risk of death and a 21% reduced risk after controlling for lifestyle habits like smoking, exercise, drinking, and eating healthy diet. The study would suggest that keeping a grateful heart, taking time to pray, and prioritizing time with family and friends could literally save your life. It's always good to take your time to reflect, as there's always something or someone to be grateful for, no matter how hard life can get. And that's the latest episode of PulsePoint. You can check out all these stories and more on our website, familyfirst.nz. We'll keep watching the news so that you don't have to. We'll see you next time.